Welcome to First in Finance, our first episode of First in Finance. Um, this is a show where we get an opportunity to talk about wealth, talk about money, talk about culture, and talk about us. And the hope is that we can have some of our younger Black athletes learn about finance a lot earlier uh, from the players that they look up to on the field. So we want to have some open, honest conversations about finance, but also talk how we talk about culture, talk about what's going on in the community and what's going on with us. Without further ado, I want to introduce some of my friends here. We have Yvenson Bernard, Marcus Greaves, and Jason Baptiste. So this is Evanson's concept of First in Finance. So I want to pass it along to Ev to kind of give us a overview of why First in Finance.
Thank you, Dorn, for that introduction. Basically, I thought this would be a great segment to talk about because we always, in the Black community, we talk about financial literacy not being, where we want to be, the lack of education in that space. And so I thought it'd be a great topic to talk about. I'm in the industry. I'm a financial advisor for Capstone Wealth Advisors here in Salem, Oregon. And so, I just wanted to, get a couple guys that have done it the right way. And I'm lucky to work with these guys personally and also on a business level as well. So, I thought it'd be a great time to open up that conversation. We're in a crazy time right now, and the wealth gap is it's increasing, especially in the Black community. I came in the industry about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I came in at the right time where, you hear those stories of, the broke athletes, right? I was a professional athlete at once, and, I kind of made some mistakes. And then, you watch the movie the TV series on HBO, Ballers, right? And so it's been a very heavy topic. It's an industry dominated by white older males. And so, I think sometimes there's a fear of where do we, when you're comfortable with someone, you do business with someone, you hang out with someone, being comfortable with somebody or culture. It just opens a lot more doors, and you feel, a way where you don't feel awkward about asking the questions. A lot of people think, to work with a financial advisor, you have to be a millionaire, right? You don't, and a lot of people don't know that, regardless of race or color, whatever. And so I want to be that face in that space where people feel comfortable. Professional athletes feel like they can open up and ask me questions or tell me things like, man, my uncle's asking me for money. What do I do? I've been there before, and I had, people, asking for handouts, and it's just part of what we have to do as a Black people. We come from those upbringings where people are struggling. And they all think when we make it pro or we make, a big career, or we have a big career, as Jason is the medical device sales, or, Marcus as a, sports commentator, they all think we have tons of money, and we don't. We're working to get there, but, it's just different in our space. And so, I'm excited to be a financial advisor. It's been amazing being able to help a lot of people out, give a lot of people confidence. It's a little bit about me from that space, from the business side.
That's dope, man. I think one of the things that when we first had the conversation about First in Finance and not only why you wanted to do it, but how you wanted to do it. So I'm going to call this flipping the script, because when you were talking about how you want to do it, you were talking about changing the narrative or flipping the script about the stories that we hear about Black athletes in particular. And you were touching on sometimes, not just sometimes, a lot of times we might be the first ones in our family that have a little bit of money. And a lot of the stories that we hear aren't always positive. So making sure that First in Finance was always coming from a positive lens about how to deal with your money, and especially for Black athletes, was important to you. So talk to me about the importance of flipping the script.
Yeah, I think once you gain confidence in what you're doing, You do it the right way. You do it professionally. You do it. You have a certain attitude about it, right? Once you understand something, and so my goal is not just to put people in stocks and bonds and all this different stuff, mutual funds, and all this is perfect, but it's also be an educator in that space, and that's what I love the most is being able to educate people and work with people that have been in the industry for a long time. Where I'm also learning at the same time. I'm still learning, right? And so I think that's the biggest thing is educating. Especially younger clients is just the education about what does this mean for you, where let's match that 401k at work, just all those little things that you don't think about, because I know a lot for me, I first got my real job or regular job, you want to call it, when they ask you what kind of risk you want to take, right? You had these 3 different ones, and I was like, yeah, whatever, man, just pick the one in the middle, right? You didn't really care. You didn't even know what they're investing in. So now I'm able to kind of, not just, align people in the market, but I'm also able to look at their current stuff with their work, right? I don't make anything up. I don't care for it. But I want to help those people out and educate them while they're, navigating through jobs and such things.
Great. That's dope, man. I look forward to getting some more jewels. And I know a lot of us, we're might be starting on the wrong 5-yard line. So we got a long ways to go to get to where we need to get, right? Get to that end zone. So, man, I want to hear about our guests. So, Marcus, can you tell me a little bit about your story?
Man, of course.
Where'd you grow up, man? How'd you get to D1 and to where you are now?
Yeah, man. Ev's probably heard this story a million times. Jason, you have too. So, born in North Carolina, man. My family moved to New York City when I was young, man, and my parents got a divorce when I was I was still really young. So we got kicked out of the house, me, my mom, and my older brother. From there, my mom obviously had to make the right move. She tried to find what move that was. That move being moving all the way over to Oregon, and not just Oregon, but Prineville, Oregon. So a lot of people, when they think of Oregon, you think, okay, Portland, Oregon, you think Corvallis, you think Eugene, just because of either Ducks, Beavers, or Portland, just in general being Portland, the biggest city in Oregon. But we actually moved to a small town called Prineville, Oregon, a town of I think it's 9,000 people. So I was the only African-American one there, man. And let me tell you, when I first got there, I thought horses were a myth, man. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I've never seen a horse in my life. Like, I never saw a horse. I never saw like cowboy boots, cowboy hats, or anything, man. So you got to come down this big hill down to get to Prineville. So we came down the big hill. I remember the whole time I was crying to my mom saying, Mom, like, there's no way we're doing this. Like, are we moving to like an old Western town? She was like, Marcus, you don't have to worry about it. Like, you're going to be fine. You're going to have friends. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be like an old Western movie. And the very first thing we saw when we got to the bottom of the hill into the town was some dude who was just trotting down the road, cowboy hat, cowboy boots, trotting down the road on a horse, man. And I just started crying. I couldn't stop. I was like, Mom, I don't know what I did to deserve this. But, all jokes aside, it actually, in a way, it was the best financial move for my mom. She was still going back to school to be a doctor, which she is now. So she had to go back to school. She, had to find the right living situation. Living in New York City, financially was just way too tough for her. So we moved out to Central Oregon because that's where my grandparents lived. But, grew up in Prineville, man. Like I said, it was different. It was a different experience. I didn't have a lot of people who looked like me, who talked like me. My older brother was kind of the only one. So, we got really close and things like that. But, sports were always kind of an outlet for me. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to have some athletic ability. So played football, played basketball, ran track, decided to play football in college over all the other sports. Chose Oregon State just because, man, I remember 6th grade walking into the gym class, seeing a poster of Mr. Yvenson Bernard over here, man, and just stiff arming some dude. I was like, oh, man, I got to go to Oregon State. Got to do everything like that. But just in general, man, like, got to Oregon State, had a great time, man. I chose Oregon State over Oregon, Washington, Boise State, and Cal. it was more of a football decision before anything. I won't lie to you guys. You know, I was like, man, Oregon State's number 7 in the country. I loved Coach Riley. He was the only one to come to Prineville to watch one of my games. And, you know, you guys all know Coach Riley. Coach Riley's a great dude. So once Coach Riley comes to your living room, talks to you for a little bit, it's almost hard to turn him down. So I was like, Oregon State's the right place for me. Went there, got to play not all 4 years, got to play 3 years, unfortunately, due to an ACL injury or 2 ACLs. I had to retire early. And then from there, man, hit the whole wall of knowing absolutely nothing about the real world, because you go to college as a football player, and the only thing on your mind, there is nothing else, and you guys already know, other than the NFL. So I'm thinking, man, okay, so what route can I get, to get to the NFL? And once I started getting more playing time, once starting on special teams and things like that, getting more carries, I was like, oh man, like the dream's coming true. I'm going to go to the NFL, and then it was taken away from me in a heartbeat, like I said, with the ACL injury. So then from there, man, this is where Yvenson and Jason come in big time. I was about as broken as possible. I had zero idea what to do. I was like, I don't know what to do to make money. I have no idea what career path I want. I have zero money saved because I was a preferred walk-on. I have loans. I don't want to stay in Corvallis and, kind of be that guy who just stays without really a plan. So it was tough, man. I was mentally going through it, to be honest with you guys. I really was. And then met Yvenson, and Yvenson kind of just talked to me a little bit, said, hey, I have a gig at Comcast that I do, Comcast Sports up in Portland. You can tag along with me, check it out, see if that's maybe something you want to do. Man, once I saw the bright lights, I was like, oh, this is easy, man. I got to do something like this. So then that's where, obviously, through Yvenson, I met Jason. Another great role model of mine, man. Both these guys have helped me out big time. And as they could probably already tell you, I text them often. And it's not even just about, joking around or anything. Like, I'll text Ev and say, hey, man, what about this financially? What is this? What is this? What do you think about this? I'll text Jason like, hey, man, I'm thinking about some real estate maybe. Like, how does that even begin? Just, picking these guys' brains and want to do it the right way. I always want to find myself being coachable. And I think having those kind of role models, not just football-wise or athletic-wise, but just in life, having guys who you can look up to, maybe reach out to. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I probably asked some really bad questions just because I have no idea. But I was like, man, I just got to ask the questions to do it. A recent one, obviously, with Ev has been maybe a credit card type thing. And he's been giving me the full lie down with all that. So just things like that, man. I mean, my story, I want to say, I think it's something that a lot of guys have gone through who have played college football, did not make it to the league, and, kind of land flat on your face, and you got to build your way back up. You got to, obviously go through some tough times. And I won't use the term now, but they always say you got to go through a mile of what to get anything good. So I felt like I went through that mile, man. I paid my dues. I had to not only intern at a couple places, but went from interning to, I'll just give you guys a quick lay down of the schedule. I had to sell my car because I didn't have a lot of money when I moved up to Portland. I really banked on this Comcast gig. Went there, was a intern, but obviously unpaid intern. So I had to find another route, which I worked at 1080 The Fan, which is a radio station here in Portland. But I didn't have a car. I lived in Beaverton. The radio station is in Portland. Had to take the bus basically 5 hours a day, both ways, just commuting. Then from there, once I got home from the radio station at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I worked at 24 Hour Fitness as a salesman. Worked as a salesman there from 4:30 in the afternoon till midnight, just to obviously make ends meet, and then wake up at 4:30 in the morning just to catch the bus to get back to the radio station, do it all over again. I had to do that for about a year before I was fortunate enough to land this spot here at Coin 6 News in Portland as a sports anchor, sports reporter, and just a sports analyst. So again, paid my dues, man. But if there's one piece of advice that I can give about my story, is always ask questions, always be a guy who's willing to learn, and just in general, never think that you're too good for something, man, because the world has a crazy way of humbling you. So it'll do it one way or the other, whether you want it to or not. You will find yourself in a situation where you will be humbled, and you're gonna have to lean on some of those role models or whatever you need to do.
Man, that's a great story. And humility is key.
Mm-hmm.
And you've gone through a lot, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for sharing your story.
Of course, man. Of
Jason,
course.
how about you? What is your story?
Oh man, well, I'm gonna try and keep it a little bit shorter than these two guys. You know, they like to talk the kind of long-winded. You know, me being a little bit older, I'm not quite as long-winded as these guys. You know, I don't have the energy. You know, for me, and the thing with being, you know, an athlete and a student athlete is that 9 times out of 10, if a person who's playing, especially on D1 football, like you come from humble beginnings, right? I think most of us come from urban areas, and you know our parents really don't have much, and we feel as though sports is a way to alleviate or to elevate ourselves out of that type of scenario. So for me, being a first generation Haitian American, both my parents were immigrants. They immigrated, you know, to the U.S. in 1975. I have an older brother, and then it was just myself. So I saw the hard work, the work ethic, and just like, you know, how difficult it was for them to put food on the table and to put clothes on my back. So for me, the way that I wanted to be thankful and to show them that you know I could help uproot ourselves from the situation was through sports. So that's what I always try to do. So you know, Jersey kid, so I grew up in back east, and a love of mine and a love of my father was always football. You know, in the Haitian community, football is actually soccer. When you say football, people think that you're talking about, you know, soccer. I think across the world is that way, except for in the United States. So my father was a huge, you know, soccer fan, but you know, because it wasn't followed as much in the States, he discovered American football, and he fell in love with, you know, Lawrence Taylor and the New York Giants, and so I idolized my father growing up. So you know, because he idolized them, I started idolizing that same person, Lawrence Taylor and the New York Giants. So I followed in the footsteps of wanting to pursue football. And coming out of high school, you know, I was originally supposed to go to, you know, Boston College, but my issue was that I had taken my SATs a little bit too late. I didn't know any better. My family didn't know any better. And although I did well for my SATs, I didn't qualify because by the time I got my SAT scores back, it was already too late. They had given the scholarship away, so I had to go the JUCO route, similar to you, Dorian. So I went the JUCO route, and I did 2 years at San Jose Community College in California, which in and of itself was a bit overwhelming, just because I had to move all the way across the country. But from that, I ended up getting a scholarship to the then you know, number 3 Oregon State Beavers, who they ended up being number 3 that year under the leadership of Dan Sarkson. So that's my story of how I ended up, you know, D1 playing for Oregon State. You know, we had great years that, you know, when I was there, it was one kind of during the pinnacle years of Oregon State football, like right after the Fiesta Bowl and all the bowl games that we played after that. But after my career ended at Oregon State, I like most athletes who no longer are playing, you know, don't go on to play professionally, had to rediscover myself. I had to find out, you know, what it was I wanted to do. How do I redefine, you know, who I am? Because for so long I was, you know, Jason Jim Baptiste, football player, you know. So I had to discover what more there was to me other than playing football, because that was no longer a part of who I was. So, and I had to discover that a little bit earlier than some of my peers, you know, who had went on to play in the NFL. So, and it was a blessing in disguise, because by having to take that on and discover that, I had to, you know, search deep within myself to find out what it was I wanted to do. And I always knew that I was, you know, well equipped, you know, to talk to people. Like I was a talker. I could, you know, crack jokes, and I could get along with nearly anyone. So I knew that because I did that so well, that maybe, you know, sales was something that I would be good at, you know. So I went that route, and another blessing was that I discovered an industry which I had no idea even existed. And that's part of, like, there's a quote that Maya Angelou said, well, that always stuck with me. And that quote is, when you know better, you do better. And I live my life that way, because had it not been for me knowing better and going and following and pursuing an industry in which I had no idea even existed, I wouldn't be where I am today. And that industry is medical device sales. For a kid that grew up in an urban neighborhood, that I never even knew what that was. Like, I never knew that you could be in an operating room helping a surgeon, with the surgery, and get paid for that. And I don't have to have a medical degree. I don't have to go to school for 20 years, 8 years, or any of that, and still be in there helping. So when I found that out, I then had to discover that I'd be okay with seeing, blood and stuff like that, and I wouldn't pass out. So I had to get over that hurdle. I had to get over that. But once I found out I was able to do that, I understood. I was like, man, like, so there's more to my life than just playing football. Like, wow, like, this is something that I actually really enjoy doing, and really and I can make, a good living doing this as well too. And that's kind of like where my financial education came into play, because I realized, I was like, okay, so with me making, good money, I have to figure out how to now manage it, because coming from where I came from, that wasn't something that was taught, because we didn't have much money to deal with, and I think, Ev said something earlier that I 100%, 1,000% agree with. And Marcus said it a little bit too, is financial literacy. That is what it is. You have to be financially literate, just like you have to be literate in order so you can read a book. Like, in order for you to read a book, you have to know the words. You have to know how to pronunciate. You have to know, okay, this is a verb, this is a noun. It's the same thing with finances. You have to know what return on investment is. You have to know what residual income is. You have to know about stocks. You have to know about bonds. You have to know about putting money into savings. You have to know about, putting money into checking and how to pay for bills. All those things come as you gain more money, but also even when you don't have that much money, because it'll prepare you for the future of when you do have enough funds and when you do have enough money, so that you can start doing those things. Because you're not only building, wealth. Hopefully, you're not only building wealth for yourself, but you're building it for future generations. So if I'm building, for future generations, that being my children and my children's children, that I need to make sure that I'm investing my money properly, so that it's not only going to see my lifetime, it'll see 2 times my lifetime. So and that was something that I learned when I first started medical device sales, and it helped me eventually, purchase a barbershop. I have a barbershop in Portland now, which is one of my, like, passion projects. I always, I learned so much of who I am today, and a lot of my, qualities in life and things that were, and values that were instilled in me by going to a barbershop, because my parents didn't know very much about, America. And I learned a lot of it by going to the barbershop, because there was a lot of people in a barbershop that, were American. And I learned about rap music. I learned about how to dress without, not just sandals on my feet, how to wear sneakers properly, how to have, hey, listen.
Barbershop's the cultural hub.
It is.
Black community.
Man. I mean, it gives you, like, it's not only about that haircut, man. It props you up. It makes you feel better in the soul, and your soul feels better when you step out of that barbershop. You look good already, because you got that cut right. You already know you look good, but it hits you. It hits you in the soul, because you're with your people, right? You're with your people, and you're talking about things that ordinarily, unfortunately, in our culture, is not okay for us to talk about just in the regular walks of life. Like, there's conversations had in a barbershop that we can't have, like, when we're at our jobs, that we can't have, when we're walking the streets and in a store and shopping. It's like, man, I could be 100% me when I'm in a barbershop, because I'm around people that look like me. They understand where I'm coming from. They understand, what I'm saying. It's not like I have to, to a certain degree, like, Americanize it or, whitewash it. Like, there is none of that, And that's, and to turn around full circle, that's why this is so important, is that it's not being, it's people that look like us that are trying to educate people on how to handle finances and and what financial literacy is and what financial wealth is over generations, not just this generation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. It's like when you see someone who looks like you and they're, confident, they're competent, they're successful, they know what they're talking about, and they're trying to help you. Oh, bro, man, there's nothing like that. There really isn't. Which is why I try to do it at every which way that I can, and I try to help, because that's something that I needed, and I wasn't afforded as much as some others were, and I try to pay that at least for it. So that's pretty much my story.
Well said.
Definitely, man. That was really well said, and it goes back to really what we're trying to do with Black Athlete: is educate, enhance, and empower, and create opportunities to have access to people like you that want to give back. So, man, I appreciate it. But I want to jump into something. So we said we were going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the culture. So I'm going to call this little segment right here For the Culture. So we got something that's going on right now. It's the summer of 2020. And just recently, we had some of our younger brothers from the Pac-12 conference decide to come together and talk about maybe boycotting the season, and bringing up some of the wealth inequities that are happening in college football. So as we're talking about creating wealth and how to sustain that, we're also talking about, our experience as college athletes, and everybody wants to go to the league, but also the NCAA is making quite a bit of money off the backs of these student athletes, and they're finally standing up. So what do you guys think about this We Are United movement with our college athletes in the Pac-12?
I think we should hand it off to Marcus first. I mean, come on. Hey,
Yeah.
want to give him a little bit.
Yeah, man, I'll get you guys. Yeah, I'll get you guys. Right? No, when it comes to this, man, like, I think this is so important because, and Elijah Mullen, he's a defensive back for University of Washington. I think he said it the best so far, and that is, it's very important what they're saying. Not all student athletes might agree with every single thing on the list, but more importantly, they're banding together because they see certain things that are just, it's flat out unfair, man. I mean, Ev, a good example for you is, I mean, like I said, 6th grade, I'm walking through the hallway. I don't know anything about football, but I remember seeing that poster, and you were on the face of it, stiff arming some guy, right? So whatever it is. And I'm like, man, I'm trying to be like that guy. Like, that guy is on a poster. I want to be on a poster, right? And so imagine if they cut you $5 for every time they printed out that poster and somebody bought it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're getting so many kids that are like me and were like me growing up saying, look at that guy. Look at this guy. I want to be like that. Oh, Bernard on the back of his jersey, I'm trying to be like that. And you don't get any of that. I mean, it's really crazy to see. And obviously, it goes into a lot deeper. There's many things that they said on the list, anywhere from, their safety from the coronavirus pandemic that's going on to, racial inequality, things like that they want to step up and really tackle. But more importantly, just in general as a whole, I mean, what they're doing, I think is a start. And I don't think that it's going to be pushed. Every single thing on the list is going to be pushed exactly how they want it to be. But in my mind, I think this is a great start. And the most important thing that I have seen from it is the fact of if they want this to happen and they want these things and they want everyone to take them serious, it's not going to have to be, being a walk-on, I can say it's like 3 or 4 walk-ons, maybe 15 walk-ons say it, right? And then the rest of the guys go. I mean, it's going to take your high-profile players, your Hamilcar Rasheeds from Oregon State, your Panay Sewells from Oregon, your big-time guys who really are the face of the conference. It's going to take them being 100% committed to this and saying, listen, man, you put Panay Sewell, you put Hamilcar Rasheed on every single Pac-12, hype video, every single graphic that you guys got, but they're not getting any money at all from this. I mean, it's flat out, it's theft, man. I mean, at the end of the day, people will say they get a free education, but let's be real. We all went through this, man. It's anything but free. You know what I'm saying? You go you do so much that it's almost like that's the only way you're going to be able to go to school. And like Jason said, for a lot of these kids, man, like they come from some areas, man, where football is the only way they're getting out. Like if you don't get a scholarship to play football, then you're going to be
Not going to school.
You're not going to school. In some instances, selling drugs on the street. I mean, anything, man. So I think what they're doing is very important. I think it's the right thing to do. Anytime you come out with negotiations, you got to shoot high. So I'm assuming that not everything is going to be, given the thumbs up, but more importantly, if you're going to negotiate, you negotiate high and then meet in the middle somewhere. So what I think that they're doing is extremely important, and I'm happy that they're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, during our time, Jason, Dorian, and I, we didn't have the social media platform to say something, or we felt like if we did say something, they would cut us, or they wouldn't start us, or we would, be benched or whatever it is. And I think players are finally understanding how much they truly matter to the university's budget. And how much the branding of the football team, if they're successful, or that successful player, how much that means to that university financially. So it's amazing to see that they're actually using and standing up for themselves and making a case across the nation. It's really awesome. And I know you talked about how for us, we didn't have any other option to go into college. How we're going to pay for it? It's still carrot on the stick, right? And I think that's starting to change. Athletes starting to know how much power they actually truly do have. And I think I tweeted something a while ago, and it was pretty hush because people knew I was right, or at least I think they do. I was right. But just knowing you got to know your worth, man. And we got power, man. As student athletes, when we were at Oregon State, when you're on that level, man, you have so much power that you don't even have any idea until. Something like this happens when you got a couple guys in the Pac-12 that are standing up, and you see the power. And now they're like, okay, man, we got to work with these guys, right? Before it'd be like, man, whatever, right? Like these guys are nothing. They just tell them to go play, right? Like they say, shut and dribble. So this the meter is changing right now.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with both Yvenson and Marcus more. I mean, I think what's happening, what we're seeing right now. The current state of affairs, like with the COVID situation, and everything else that's happening right now, is that people are finding their voice, and that includes athletes. And with people finding their voice and having a platform to actually let it be known, this has been a long time coming. I mean, we all know that. I mean, for years, we've always complained about. Student athletes, it's not enough, scholarship, that notwithstanding, like athletes need to be accommodated in other ways, whether it's health insurance, whether it's, pay, whether it's, paid for your likeness or wherever the case may be, having a scholarship isn't enough, especially when the university is making millions upon millions of dollars based off of the athletes, whether it's because of their likeness or whether it's because how they perform on the field, on the court, or on the baseball diamond. So the fact that this is now happening, kudos to them. Kudos to them for taking a stand and for saying enough is enough. We need to have this conversation, and if it means us sitting out a year, then so be it. Because a lot of those same athletes, they will be able to have a career outside of college. A lot of them will probably make it into the pros. Like some of I'm talking about the mainstream guys. So they're going to be okay. But we need their voices and we need their faces to be part of this, because if they're not part of it, it's not going to go as far as we would like it to go.
Absolutely.
So and just one last point to build off that. I mean, I talked about it a couple of times on our show here at Coin, and that's the fact if you think about how much money football brings, not just to a university, but to an entire community. I mean, you think about all those mom and pop shops, say in Corvallis, who, maybe there's a local bar, a local restaurant, where it's like, man, game days, they're packed, right? They're packed with a ton of people. Yep. Everyone loves going there for game days. It's a place to go get a drink before you go tailgating, or before you go do this, before you go do that. I mean,
Hotels
imagine if
charge
there
triple.
Yeah, exactly. Hotels. I mean, everything just blows up when there's a college football season because every single place, especially in that small community like Corvallis, benefits from it. I mean, you can't tell me that they don't, right? So imagine if those mom and pop shops don't get that business. I mean, they're still going to get some, a little business from, maybe people passing through or the locals there. But man, without those people storming in every single Saturday, I mean, it's going to be tough for them. So that's where these student athletes, I think, understand that, and they're starting to understand that, like you guys said, man, we mean a lot more to this community than I think we understood. And now looking back on it, I was like, man, like we did a lot, right? So a lot of those places, I was like, sheesh, man, like they're out of business now because there's not a lot going on.
Yeah. And to that, and I know you have other questions to ask us, Dorian, as well too. But to that, I think a lot like this means so much to the former players as well too. I mean,
exactly.
Like what the current players are doing right now is like, man, like I have so much support for them because I'm like, do it for us too. Do it for us. Like, go on, get it. You know what I mean? Because it's like, hey, we couldn't do it, so I want you guys to do it. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. I mean, like having a better stadium, having a better gear and uniforms in the same way, in the same element. Like it's like the foreign players want to see this through just as much as the current players. So they have my complete backing, and I'm sure a lot of other former players as well too.
Yeah.
That's dope. I agree with everything you all have said, and I think one of the most important things that they're talking about and asking for is the health care. And I think it's a really important thing that sometimes we don't even think about. And we didn't think about that kind of stuff until we graduated, and then my back, my neck, my hip, or my head, feels a little bit different. And it might be 5 to 10 years later from some of those impacts that I had. And I know I personally had those situations where, I get a scholarship check and it doesn't last the whole month. You come home and you're hungry. And if you're a walk-on, you got to pay. And I know I was sneaking some of the walk-ons into our training table so they can come and eat. So I think, yeah, definitely. So I think it's necessary. I think they're taking the right steps, man. I'm 100% drip, y'all. What's I want to know, when you were in college, we was all fresh and we did real cool stuff that we might not look back on too fondly right now. So I know the first thing that I did when I got some money was I went to the jewelry store and somebody talked me into buying a watch, and it looked like diamonds. And they told me that they were really cool crystals. And it turned out that the crystals were just glass. But I wore that thing everywhere.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. Oh, man.
Oh, man. Sorry, man.
Hey, you had glass. You had the glass.
Hey.
You had the glass watch.
It was shining though. You get some money.
I bet, especially in the sun. Especially in the sun. I bet. For me, one of the things, and I wonder if it was at that same jewelry store that I went to too, but it might have been a different jewelry store. But come from back east, it was all about like your medallions or whatever, and like your chains. So I went to a store and got like this globe or whatever, like it was a heavy globe or whatever. It wasn't all that big, but it was a heavy globe. But it cost me a good amount of money or whatever. And then we would play fight a lot. I mean, I think that's the thing that like athletes do. I don't know, like whether it's football or whatever. Well, like one of these instances, I had the chain on with the globe, and I was play fighting with someone, and the chain swung up, and it hit me in my face, and it took out like a good chunk of my cheek. Oh, I was like, oh man! So I literally had to go. Yeah. So I literally had to go to the doctor because I thought I was gonna have to get it stitched up or whatever, because it took a big like chunk of my cheek out or whatever. Luckily, I was like, you know what, I'm playing football. People don't have to look at my face or whatever. Hell no, I'll be cool. So it ended up being all right. But that's a case of unnecessary drip right there.
Dang.
Oh man, what you got, Ev?
Man, I'm gonna say medallion too. I got my number on it, the 26. Either that or man, like just buying so many Air Jordans, man. Every month I'd probably buy like 2 or 3. Just really stupid. My first year, I was a red shirt, so I didn't play. Or a red alert back then. They would let you travel with the guys, but you get to suit up and everything, but you didn't play. But anyhow, I feel like it probably was because I was so bored, man, and I just did some dumb stuff. But my sophomore year, I actually tightened up, man, and I actually started sending money back home to my father and my brother at the time. They were struggling. My mom had passed away, before I even entered my freshman year of high school. But just from my mom being away, my dad just made some really not smart financial moves, went bankrupt. And so it really hit hard when I took off to college because I couldn't see anything and he didn't want me to see that. So he just kind of hung on and was borrowing money from people. So yeah, man, my sophomore year, I started sending that check, half of that check back home to help my bro and my dad to get by. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, man, since I'm the youngest one here, 24, soon to be 25. Yvenson already knows, man, because he's had to slow me down a couple times, man. The funny thing is the segment unnecessary drip. That is 100% my entire college life, man. Just 100% unnecessary, man. I'm talking like we had a place called Impulse, which was the nightclub. I mean, I get it, man. Like, you got to be responsible with your money, especially as a walk-on. But I'll never forget in the summertime when they would give us, the $500 checks to stay at school. Man, I remember I cashed it, and the first thing I did, I was like, man, I've watched way too many movies. All these guys, the first thing they do is they get drip. So I was like, I went out, bought myself new shoes, pants, shirt, way too expensive. After that, I probably had $100 left.
Oh.
This is a true story too. Had $100 after all of that, right? I was like, man, so I already spent way too much money. I should have saved it. But the best way to get money back is to spend some money at the casino. Went out to the casino with some homies. I know Ev's probably losing it right now.
Well, hey, we'll talk about those off-whites you just bought, but I won't bring that up.
Yeah. I didn't. Okay. Anyways. So, I went up 250. I just played blackjack. I was like, oh, perfect, man. I should have walked away. I didn't. Ended up losing it all. Went back home. All I had to answer for that $500. This was all in one day to let you guys know too. Then from there, the only thing I had was a nice fit. And then now looking back on, none clothes fit anymore, and the shoes are trash. So.
Oh my God!
I don't want to say I got the red flag of unnecessary drip, but I might have to do. I might do. Hey, it was rough.
Hey, ding, ding, ding! We got a winner.
Hey, I will admit though, as soon as I went to the club, man, as soon as I went, people were like, dang, man, like you're looking fresh. That's all I needed. After that, I was like, dang, man, I really spent $500 to have people tell me I look nice, man. Like it's terrible. But
can you imagine if we all saved $200 out of each check every month and put it away?
It'd be crazy. It'd be crazy.
And so talk about it into mutual funds at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, when what did I say earlier? When you know better, you do better.
You do
right?
better.
Yeah, you do better. I mean, that's not something that anyone ever spoke to us about in college, right? I mean, it was all about getting ready for Saturday and getting prepared. So, I mean,
who was the first person to talk to you about money?
For me, the first person that I was really talked about money was a good friend of mine. He was into real estate, which is kind of how I started getting into real estate, and you know, he had gotten his degree in finances, and he took the money that he was making as a realtor and started investing it into real estate. And I saw the progression of you know, his portfolio, and I was like, hey, like how are you doing that? And then he started kind of dropping, like, you know, little jewels to me here and there, like, hey, this you, if you have this much money, this is what you want to do with that. You know, if you have excess money here, if you had a good month, you might want to do this. Um and it meant the world to me, because I didn't know these things. Like, and then he recommended certain books for me to pick up and read about. You know, Good Dad, Poor Dad. That was one of the books that I read early 20s. You know, like stuff like that, where it was like, okay, there's a different way to handle finances. Like, you know, there's not only one way to handle it. There's other ways in which you can make the money that you make work for you, as opposed to you working for the money. You know what I mean? So that but we each have our own way, or person who educates us or brings us to get to that point. And for certain people, Ev is that person, especially in the role that he's in right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it took for me, I'm not gonna lie, probably 6 years ago. When I bought my first house, in I think I was like 3 years out. We were playing in Canada, actually, in the CFL. I bought the house, but I still didn't know finances, right? I just saved enough money to buy a house. But where I started learning was when I started working at the Oregon State Foundation. When I would ask these super wealthy people, you know, how do you make your money, right? And then that's when I was like, wow, okay, I get it. I've been missing out. And then that's when I started sharing with, you know, you guys and other people, like, man, this is what they do. This is how they do it. And so, yeah, probably 6-7 years ago when I started working at the foundation, just asking people. But, you know, growing up, my dad never told me. He lived paycheck to paycheck, and he was a big spender. He was flashy, you know. Like Jason, my family's from Haiti. I was the firstborn in the United States. And so for them, they always want to live that American dream and show that facade like they made it. So they spend a lot of money to keep up with that image. And so, yeah, I always, or not always, but I never really had, you know, a father that taught me about finances. And that's where you guys will be very critical in teaching that next generation about finances. And we continue to, you know, teach people about this. You know, the Black community will change drastically, because that is the one thing that is hurting us, is financial literacy.
Absolutely. I will say, besides my mom, obviously, she'll, you know, parents will say a little bit, you know, here and there. It's like, you know, you should save your money. But it was Ev, man. Ev was the one who kind of started to get me into that, understanding that, because, you know, after working at a radio station, working at 24-hour fitness, you don't get, you know, the only extra money I had went to groceries, right? So I was living paycheck to paycheck. And even then I had to sell some shoes. Like I said, I sold my car, so I was able to pay for some things. Like, I had to basically give up all that stuff that I thought I needed at the time, you know, the nice clothes and nice shoes. I had to sell all of it just in order to make ends meet, you know, get my rent, get my groceries, things like that. But then I got this job here at Coin. You start making a little more money, like Jason said, and it's just trying to understand. And that's what I was going to say. Yvenson has been the one who, him and Jason both actually have been, you know, helping me understand how to do, I don't want to say life right, but in a way, you know, at least financially taking that step and saying, hey, you know, do this early because it's going to benefit you. And at times, I will admit, you know, being a young 24-year-old man, it's hard sometimes, man. It's really hard. And I won't say I haven't treated myself from time to time, but it's just understanding the importance of it. And I think it took me way too long to understand. Again, I'm still pretty young, so I'm hoping that I can make up for some of the time that I missed, but just trying to really understand that. And, you know, there's times where you get a check and you're like, all right, man, all my bills are paid, right? I have everything taken care of, and I just got a good check. So I can either go buy some nice shoes, buy some nice clothes. Like, you know, I can go out and have fun with my friends. And then, you know, I'll get on Instagram or something. I'll see Ev post on a story, something about financial literacy. I'm like, Ev's right, man. I'm like, I'll text Ev. I'll be like, hey, man, like, take some money out, man. Like just take it, man.
Yeah,
Just take my money, man.
it's okay to treat yourself. It's okay to treat yourself. I think we all know that, right? We have to treat ourselves.
Yeah.
We also just have to be disciplined, man. You have to really be thoughtful in that. Yeah, you're good, man. Hey, you're starting. Don't say you should start early, man. You're 24 to start. Come on, man. That's a game changer. I got some people coming in at 45 trying to figure out how they're gonna retire.
And you want to know, you want to know something that, and I've always, for a long time, I've kind of thought of it in this way, and I think this will probably help a lot of athletes, but also just the Black community in general, is that, when you're training for something, right? Like, and athletes are accustomed to training. Like, you're training for the game. Like, you don't just go out there and play, right? Like, you lift weights, you run sprints, you do gassers if you're doing you do gassers, and you do it repetitive, like it's repetitive. You do it day in, day out. You run your plays, you run your drills, you do all that. Well, finances is no different. Like, you have to work. You're working your financial muscle. It's muscle memory is what it is. It's like, so when you do things over and over and over and over again, you're working that part of your financial like book, like your pay. You're building your wealth slowly but surely, right? Like, your residual income starts to grow. Like, the more money that you have in your 401k, then you start to see more gains year in, year out, month in, month out. So it's the same way. It's like you have to repeat it. You have to grow. You have to work on it, and then you become that much stronger and that much more financially literate.
Mm-hmm.
So, you talked about this a little bit earlier. Everybody did, is starting early, saving early. So we talk about, like, first in finance, right? It's first down. You got a fresh set of downs. You're feeling good, but you always need help with someone, telling you to play. So what would you tell someone that is in college, about to go to college, in high school, that wants to start saving money early, or somebody in their early 20s? So what would you tell the young you about saving early? What are the first steps?
Yeah, I think Jason talked about it. It's a muscle, right? And training yourself, and I think that's opening up a bank account, right? A lot of kids. I didn't have a bank account until my freshman year of high school, or not high school, but college, right? Where we were getting those scholarship checks, and you had to do something with it. So if the parents could instill those, that, hey, let's start an opening account your freshman year of high school. I mean, that's huge, right? And so you kind of develop, you understand, and you get to college, you're like, I'm just doing the same old thing. And yeah, I mean, put a little play money. We all need a little play money, especially at that age. But also put that money away, right? Put that in the savings, let it grow, and then if you have enough, open up an account, an investment account, right? And just start feeding that, instead of putting in all your savings, put at least, 2 months of, whatever into that little jar. And then you have another jar, which is your investment, account, and you keep feeding that. You just keep feeding that. So I think if we start, educating the youth early on, they start doing that when they're young, the landscape will change. If you got what's going to be really crazy is if these guys start getting paid in college, man, right? So they start saving that little likeness money. Whew, man. I mean, now they're starting off fresh, right? Or not fresh, but they're starting off on a good foot when they graduate. Let's say they don't go play professional ball. Okay, cool. But guess what? All that money from that likeness, right? Now I get to sit on and actually not like stress and just take whatever job that's thrown out. Oh, I'll go do that job. I'll go wash cars, right? But no, you can actually take your time, use your education, your degree, and be like, you know what? I'm going to wait. I could afford to wait, 3 or 4 months to find the right job that fits me. And so, yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. First in finance.
For me, like, we're starting early. I would say to start small. I think for the youth, it's a huge thing to try to tell them, hey, like, you should save like 10%, 20% or whatever you get. But if you tell them just start small, like save $1. Like
Yeah.
save. If you want to go get something, to eat, or if you want to go buy some clothes, like save $1 out of that, save $2 out of that. Put it to the side, and watch that little bit grow. Like I've said, if you have a bank account, just put the $2 in your bank account, and just in your savings, and just watch it start to work for you. Like start getting interest and working. And then the second thing for me is to have a goal. Like in all things in life, like you have to have a goal. Like you have to have something that you're reaching for and trying to achieve. So why not have that in your financial life earlier in life and not later in life? So if you're trying to get like a pair of sneakers, save for it. Like save for it. Start putting money aside for it. Like, and for parents, don't just get those things for your kids. Like make them work for it. Like make them earn those things, because by earning it, they'll understand the value of money and how money works. So those are my things right there.
I think I would say it's just understanding, right? So when you tell someone, if I would have told myself when I first started college, hey, you need to save a good chunk of money that you get, right? I would have been like, why would I do that? Like, I have the rest of my life to save money, right? And I think that's what a lot of kids would say is, hey, man, I got the rest of my life. Like, why would I save money now? And it's because people don't really understand what you could do with that. And Jason, you said that is just knowing what you want to do. Same thing, just knowing what saving could do for you. Because now I felt like I went from being a kid who was stressed with no financial goal other than I have to pay rent this month. Like that was it. That was my only worry at the end of every single month was I need to pay rent. I need to have enough money to pay rent, right? So then when you get a good amount of money or you get some extra money on the side, what do you do with it? Well, I think if you don't have a plan and you don't understand what the point of saving is, then you're just going to be like, listen, man, well, I paid what I had to pay for. Rent was my end goal. I paid my rent. So now I'm going to take my money. I'm going to go do what I want, right? Which is go have fun, go spend stuff on this or that. That sometimes just unnecessary and that you don't need. So that's what I was saying when people started helping me understand why I should save and what it could do for me and my future, then it started making more sense to me. And then instead of me being a guy, I was like, well, listen, man, every single penny I get, I'm going to keep it in my account. Yvenson knows that's kind of how I was at first. I was like, man, I just want it in my account so I could see what I've done, so I can see what I've earned. But then it's like, okay, when I know what the end goal is and why I'm doing it, it makes it so much easier for me to save the money. And then from saving the money, be smart with the money and not even want to touch it because I know it's for a bigger purpose. And if I understood the bigger purpose, then from there, it'll be so much easier just to reach that end goal of whatever it is that you want to do with saving your money.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I think starting early is important, and I know that it's really important to have a goal. Just like anything, like Jason was saying, is whether you're a basketball player, a football player, track, any sport, you are going to have a coach that's going to help you get to your end goal, and you're most likely going to have a play, and you're going to have a role within that, and you practice it over and over again. But you also need those coaches and mentors to help you lead the way. So I wish I would have been in a position to know that stuff. And all the stuff that you're talking about is so important. Just like Jason, I was a junior college transfer, and I did get a scholarship check. And, for 2 years, if I would have just decided to put $200 away, I could have left school at $5,000 or $4,800. And if I'm there for, it could have been $9,600 if I'm there for 4 years. And I think as we go on later, Ev can tell us about, the market, tell us about the importance of compound interest, and also, the importance of having different accounts, right? Checking and savings. So I know for sure what I started doing, because I was in a similar position where it was like, when I first graduated and when I was in school, my first goal was to pay the rent. And then everything else after that, That was fun, right? So
Yeah.
making sure, right, understanding myself is learning how to automate my payments and savings, so I don't even have to touch the money from my bank account, from my check going into savings or other things. So then I know exactly how much that I have every month as extra spending money for gas and food and things like that. So I think definitely having a game plan is key. So one thing we talk about now is the importance of multiple streams of income, aka having some side hustles. And we got the king of side hustles here, and having
Oh
multiple
boy.
income is our guy Jason. Jason, can you tell us a little bit about the importance of having multiple streams of income, residual income, and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, for me, and I think especially for the Black community, I think when you have multiple ways in which you could be successful, it's beneficial because you're not only depending upon one stream of income. That was something that I learned a little bit later in life, but I continue to try to pass on to other people. So, as I stated earlier, like I started doing medical device sales, but I realized like pretty early on in being in the industry is that um, although you might have a good month or a good 2 months, like there's going to be certain months in which you don't do nearly as well. So you need to have like income coming from other parts that would make up for your loss that you make that month. So one of the things that I had decided to do is like, well, if I'm going to go pursue, side hustles, I need to make sure that it's something that I really am passionate about. And the two big things for me was one was real estate because I wanted to own property in places that I felt close to. So I have a property back home. I live in Oregon, but I have a property back home in Jersey that on a monthly basis, like I get rent through that. So I could do invest it again, or I could do whatever it is that I want to do with it. So I have that, but I also have a barbershop, which was also something I was really close to my heart and something that I really wanted to do. Not only for the community, but also to show like youth that listen, that there's other ways in which you could be successful outside of just sports and entertainment. So it was a passion on a multitude of different levels there, and also music. Music is something for me that has just in our culture, music has been something that's been something that we've all really grown up listening to, and even to this day is really important to us. So my brother and I, mostly my brother, but I also help him. There's like a group of, some family members, but also, close friends that have a music group that, I help with as well too. So that's another side of something that we do as well too. So there's, if for anyone that's looking to get into different things, I would highly recommend doing so because at the end of the day, if you have multiple income streams, it's more beneficial down the road.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool. I didn't know anything about the music.
Oh man,
That's pretty dope.
I thought you were going to say you're a singer, man. I was going to say there's no.
No,
I
no, no,
was,
no,
you know,
no,
I,
no, no,
hey,
no singing, no singing.
where would
no
I be
singing.
without you?
Hey.
Watch out.
oh,
Man.
man. For me, I used to have a little e-commerce business. Me and Jay actually used to do some of it a little bit together.
Yeah.
That was a nice little side hustle. Gosh, I also used to have football camps. I tried to use my likeness. I was one of the few back in the days when I was coming out of college. Used that. But I want to, obviously I'm not where I want to be on the side hustle. The new, not new career, but I guess 2 years is new. Just trying to focus really on that, man. It's taking a lot of my time. Trying to be the best version of myself. I'm out there prospecting, meeting new clients, trying to, get out there, and I want to work with athletes. And so that takes a lot of my time from a recruiting standpoint, trying to get those guys. Takes a lot of time, but I do want to get some real estate property. Like Jason, my brother, plays for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's got a couple, duplex, triplex, fourplexes. So it's definitely in the making. Just gotta save some more cash so I can jump in with him on some of those opportunities. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I want to obviously get into real estate, but just some things that I do side hustle wise, I kind of keep them in my kind of repertoire of what I do now. So sometimes I write for different 24/7 is a recruiting website football wise. So I do some football recruiting writing for Beaver Blitz. I do some other things on the side. If I can get a radio gig, I'll do that. I'll do the same thing, football camps. I'll do anything from training athletes to really anything. So I just use kind of all the skills I've learned throughout my life on every aspect. And obviously I'm always open to learning some new ones, like I was saying. With Jason, I remember a couple of times I've asked him about it. We've kind of talked about it back and forth. Just same thing as Ev, waiting to get the right amount of money, waiting for it to be the right financial move, and then just, taking off with that. But same thing. I'm always open for more side hustles. I know how important they are, and you see someone like Jason who has so many of them, where that's kind of something I'm trying to get my feet wet in. Is listening. I can understand that I love my career. I love what I do. Talking sports, being in the sports world is one of my favorite things. But also understanding the time. Obviously time is money. That's something you can never get back. So how are you going to make more money with a certain amount of time that you have, and what are you going to do with that money is extremely important. So those are kind of the things where I understand my side hustles. I want to get into more side hustles, but just being responsible with them and understanding how much they could truly benefit you, especially at a young age. So,
yeah. And Dorian, just really quickly, one of the things that I would say, just as someone who is always listening and always and keeping an eye out for new things, is that, for entrepreneurs and people that are looking for side hustles, you always have to be aware of where, the culture is going, and not just Black culture, just culture in general and society is going, because there's opportunities waiting to be had. You just have to, be in tune with it and just be open to different ideas. And I'll give you an example. I like to have a cocktail every once a day, or sometimes every night. As of recently, every night I like to have a cocktail. Because of this whole situation that we're going through with COVID and everything. But the one thing I realized, like over this time, is that, man, the spirits industry is something that's big. Like people really get into like their cocktails. And back in the day, it used to be rum, and then it went from rum to beer. Now the new wave now is whiskey. Like people really love whiskey. They'll pay a premium dollar amount for whiskey, especially for whiskey that's hard to find, right? So I'm kind of tipping my hand here, which I usually don't do. But one of the things for me that I kind of I'm starting to pursue is premium bottles of whiskey, in which I could then take what I spent for that and then sell it for more, because it's so hard to find. So which is something that seems like it's simple, but again, it's a different level of an income stream. It's something that it doesn't take much time. It's something that I enjoy to do. I'm a little bit of a collector or whatever. I am, but it's something that I could do, that I enjoy doing. I could do it on my own free time, my own free will, and but also make money from it. So
yeah, love it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I'll close with this remark. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities, right, with this whole Black Lives Matter. A lot of states, cities, they want to see the Black community rise, and I think there's going to be a lot of minority. There's going to be a lot of things that are basically for the minority to make money, and they want to see them grow within that community. So there's going to be so many opportunities, man. We just have to, maybe it is money wise, how much do we have? But I think there's also going to be, parts of the neighborhood where, they will go in with you just because they're, you know what, we have this for the minorities. We're going to help them out. And you get 5 or 6 partners to go in on it. Boom. You know what I mean? So taking advantage of the opportunities that are going to be at hand will be another thing I think that's super important to change the narrative within the Black community.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Great.
I agree more.
Thank y'all for your time. This has been a great conversation. And I'm probably going to hit y'all up to do some more because I'm sitting here taking notes. And there's a lot of things where I think we can dive deeper into. So I really, really appreciate you all with your time. And I want to know if you got any parting words for some of the young athletes that are out there watching.
Well, for me, it would just be, don't ever be too proud to listen and to educate yourself with something that you don't necessarily know a lot about. I know that we're all prideful. We're prideful people, but I can't speak enough about coming to a situation with open ears, with an open heart, and then learning from it, and then being better based off of what you've learned. So, and that's the biggest thing for me.
I'd say use a celebrity as a college football player, or any athlete of college level. I think you have a celebrity, and if you do not use it to your advantage because they're using you, that's your fault. That's your own bad. So definitely use it to your advantage. When you fill out that resume, college athlete, D1, write it in there. When you meet them, just use that to your advantage. It opens up a lot of doors. And also, gosh, now think about it. When you're a student athlete, talk to one of those fundraising officers. Be like, I want to meet some of these donors, right? And you meet them while you're in school, and then you create that relationship. There's not gonna be no money swap or no free dinners, but you just create that relationship, man. Because when your time is up, they're gonna be like, "Wow, I looked at this guy more than an athlete, right?" I created a friendship with this guy, and that guy could own a Fortune 500 company. Who knows, right? If you're going to D1 school, maybe, right? Notre Dame, Stanford, Oregon State. We got 2 research, and I can't think of them, but yeah, just that if you create that relationship early on, you will open up a lot of doors when it's your time to get ready for the workforce.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would say, man, listen to the old heads. Listen to them because as much as sometimes you might sit back, I'm just keeping it real, man. As much as sometimes you might sit back and be like, man, are you sure? This ain't 10 years ago, man. This is now. But they know what they're talking about, man. Always be coachable. Always be willing to listen because I will say that's something that I think I try and pride myself on is the fact of if someone gives me advice or someone tells me something that it's going to benefit me in the future, I will definitely listen to them. I'll definitely obviously take any notes that I can. And I will definitely try and follow what their plan is too, because, people like Jason, people like Yvenson, they're out to help you, to help me. And so you should always listen to them because they're only trying to benefit you. They've been there, they've done it, they've made the mistakes, they have, climbed the mountain, they've done it all, and they've reached, certain points and still are reaching for certain points in their life. But they've been through it, they've experienced it. It's kind of like clearing the path a little bit for you in order for you to be successful, which is what Jason always texts me every time is that's what you're supposed to do in that leadership and that mentor role is just clear the path for the next generation. So listen to the old heads, man. That's what I got to say.
I can't believe you call me an old head.
Great.
Oh, man. Hey, Ev, man, take off that hat. What are we talking about, man?
Exactly.
Hey,
I got it. Hey, hold on, man. I need to shave it a little bit.
Hey, Dorian, man, I won't say it to you, man, because you brought me and you haven't said nothing, man.
Hey, that's love, man. Hey, that's tuition into the school of hard knocks, baby. That's all that is.
All right, man. That was the kid. You know y'all boys, man.
Appreciate y'all, man. Have a great night.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you too, man. Thank you.
Stay blessed.
Peace.
Peace.